Now, I really like this latest move from Tesla, but it is confusing to some Tesla stock investors. It'll take me a minute to explain because at first, this really looks like pretty good news, but then there's something that Tesla did that is just like, what? Why? But it actually makes a lot of sense. Tesla just released two new trims, one for the Model S and one for the Model X, basically 10,000 less for each, but less range, and they made them a little bit slower, but they are still very fast vehicles, and the range, at least on the Model S, it's pretty good. On the other hand, the Model X would now only have 269 miles of range instead of the 348. I think anything under 300 miles, it starts to become, no. How about no? I'm talking strictly as a consumer here. And we have the long range Model 3, and sometimes that feels like a little bit not exactly enough. I don't feel range anxiety, I just feel inconvenience. But if I really needed an SUV, a big one like the Model X, and money was an issue, yeah, I would take the cheaper one and I would deal with the extra inconvenience of having relatively little range. And I know some of you will say, but that's pretty decent range, isn't it? Well, if you get an LFP battery, for example, if you get this Model 3 rear-wheel drive, you can charge it every single time to 100%. So that makes it actually okay. But the thing is, this is not an LFP battery, so can you charge to 100%? Well, here's the thing. Tesla says these new standard range Model S and Model X cars are software limited. This means they don't use LFP batteries, and at first that's bad news, but actually I say this is good news, and this is the confusing part. Tesla does not plan to offer firmware upgrades to unlock more range or performance in the future. So why would you waste these batteries, put them in, and don't allow people to use them? Well, it's because you would later sell upgrades, right? But Tesla explicitly here said that no, we are not doing any upgrades in the future. Sources, he got this information from a sales rep. He says call any of them and they will confirm. It's not inside information. Separately, the long range and standard range are the same exact weight per the specs page, so no chance the standard range uses a smaller battery or LFP. I generated millions before running ads, and one of the most effective strategies that you can use is urgency. If you can create some sort of urgency somehow, doesn't matter how, you will do better. And I think what Tesla is doing here is one time a year, let's say, Tesla will say, oh, you can actually upgrade your vehicle, but you gotta do it in the next 10 days, let's say, and that chance is not going to happen again. So if you don't do it now, you won't be able to do it ever, but of course next year Tesla will do it again. Sort of like how Tesla gives these insurance subsidies in China. They say it's expiring in, let's say, 30 days, and then a few quarters later, happens again. So I am 99% sure Tesla will allow software upgrades, assuming these are software limited. Otherwise, this would make absolutely no sense. Unless these are going to be very low volume vehicles, which I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, because I think the standard range Model S is a very attractive offer compared to the long range and the performance version, because it already has a lot of miles in terms of range. So let's say you buy a standard range Model S, and it's not an LFP battery, so you can't charge it to 100%, right? Well, are you sure? Because you don't have access to 100% of the battery. So wouldn't you be able to actually charge to 100% of roughly 80%? I think so. Here you basically are getting a battery, supposedly perhaps, that is actually a much bigger battery, and you're only using roughly 80% of it anyway, which is exactly what you want to do to preserve the battery's life. So overall, sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Now, Tesla could maybe play some tricks here and make you charge to 100% actually, and then when it hits zero, the battery would still have, let's say, 100 miles or more. in terms of range. So if Tesla is doing it that way, then yeah, that's a bit unfortunate for the consumer, because if you charge to 100%, that means you're actually degrading the life of a battery. So I'm curious what will actually happen if you do get that model and you charge to 100%. Are you actually charging to actual 100%, or you're charging 100% of roughly 80%, let's say? Also, it's important to remember that Tesla will probably have a higher FSD take rate on the standard range Model S and X compared to, let's say, a Model 3. And the margins, I think, are still going to be fairly decent on these two. Gary Black says that these new trims are not great value propositions because the range is light and the 0 to 60 is a bit slow. For example, you can get a Model Y Performance for $55,000, 300 miles of range, and 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. So that's actually pretty good. So why would you pay $30,000, $40,000 more? And to that, I say, don't worry. Tesla will probably cut prices more. I know that's not what Gary wants to hear, but that's probably what's going to happen later eventually. This is a pretty good point. Has anyone noticed that most of Tesla's range offerings are now centered around 320 to 330 miles of range and 270 to 280 miles of range? Because if you recall, at Investors Day, this is what we have heard. We have analyzed patterns in the way the fleet drives and charges to optimally size battery packs for our next generation of vehicles. And now let's go through the rest of today's Tesla stock news. A camouflaged Project Highland Tesla Model 3 has been spotted in China. If recent reports are accurate, as of August 14th, Giga Shanghai is now only producing the new version of the Model 3 after a 2-week transition period. I think there is a very high chance that is true. Here's some good Tesla stock news. Fisker said today it signed a deal with Tesla to adopt its North American charging standard, giving Fisker customers access to the automaker's supercharger network by 2025. Here's a list of everyone who signed the deal so far. Volkswagen should really hurry up if they want to stay in business and not just not die, but try to somewhat thrive, if that's even still possible. This is crazy. A commercial truck sideswiped this Tesla, then hit it from behind in a second impact. The owner was able to pull himself out of the passenger window, and the reason why he survived, I think, it's because it was a Tesla. I mean, you see a car like that, I don't think you think anyone survived in a car like this, but because it's a Tesla, the person survived. And Tesla won't just save you, it will also save others as well, including animals. FSD beta slowed down here for this animal. We have really good news here. I love this one. You want to compare this color here to blue. So this to blue. This yellow color is Q4 of last year, so we want to ignore that because this is what we are competing against. And clearly, this last week in China, the deliveries were great. In fact, if you look closely here, we are already ahead of the previous quarter, so that's really good news. And this is before the price cut basically went into effect for the vehicles in China. This is how many cars of all kinds, including gas cars, German automakers sell in China, and Tesla is in green here, and Mercedes, BMW, Audi are all these other colors. And you can see that this last week, Tesla actually outsold them in China. So Tesla is starting to sell more vehicles than these other automakers that still sell gas-powered vehicles. By the way, it's not just me who likes the latest data from China. Troy says it looks good too. The markets today are down though, and Tesla is down together with everything, but it's down a little bit more than the NASDAQ 100 technology sector. So I think some of the investors don't like the new trims. I think they are interpreting these as just regular price cuts on Model S and X. But the thing is, I expect Tesla to cut prices of pretty much all vehicles in the long term. So to me, this is no surprise really. We are just doing it sooner rather than later. By the way, there's a bit of a discrepancy between the numbers from China. One source says 13.8 thousand and Roland said exactly 14,000. Either way, a very small difference, so it doesn't matter much. Look, Gary is also very happy with the numbers from China. He's calling them excellent. I think there's a good chance we'll have record deliveries in China again. Remember some bad news from yesterday where no Teslas were allowed to park inside of this airport, basically? Well, that sign has been taken down and seems like it's all good now. That's good news. Really good news. If you missed that story yesterday, the Teslas were not allowed to park in that airport because of potential data concerns, because Teslas can film all the time, basically. I know there are still Tesla stock investors that are concerned about Tesla's inventory, but you look at all other automakers and you see that they have at least 20 days of inventory. Tesla, by the way, is at about 16 days, and then you scroll down, yeah, it gets bad quickly. I like this news. Tesla is recruiting a local operations team to bring FSD to China, report says, but we'll need to wait for at least 3 months, it seems, unless Elon Musk goes to the country and talks to certain people. Maybe this could be accelerated by quite a bit. Emmett seems to be quite worried. Anyone else thinking we may be on the cusp of Tesla slashing prices another 10 to 20%, cutting margins to single digits for the fourth quarter? Long term, I'm not worried about the business at all, but the next few months could be huge in terms of temporary drawdown in Tesla's stock if Tesla actually does cut the prices further, is basically what Emmett says here. Well, if it happens, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be buying a lot more Tesla stock again. But just look at this. At least 6 more covered Cybertrucks were spotted today by this Reddit user, and there's a comment that these 6 are in addition to the 9 Joe spotted earlier. So this is getting quite serious. You know, earlier I was starting to think this quarter, I don't think there's a high chance that we will have the Cybertruck delivery event after going through the earnings report. Tesla used this language that, we'll be launching them this year instead of using the language that they did before, which indicated that they would be launching the Cybertruck at the end of September probably. But now I think there's a decent chance, perhaps, maybe not a very high chance, that we will have the Cybertruck launch event maybe this quarter. I think that chance certainly just got significantly higher. The production seems to be happening right now to some degree. And whenever Tesla launches a new product, I don't think I want to be out of Tesla stock. I want to own as much of it as I possibly can. It's of course not guaranteed that Tesla stock will go up in the short term, but I'm just saying I don't want to be out of it. I am also not a trader. I invest for the long term, which means I don't try to time Tesla stock. So even if it dips, I'm not going to sell Tesla stock. I will buy a lot more though. The only way I would sell Tesla stock is if it somehow goes up so much, so quickly, that it exceeds my fair Tesla stock valuation. And right now, I still think Tesla stock is far, very far from its fair market value. In other words, if you see Tesla stock dip or just stay flat like it did here for 6.5 years, you will probably see me talking about Tesla stock every single day, pretty much, for the next 5 to 10 years. And by more than usual, during huge dips, instead of chickening out. So you may want to subscribe if you haven't yet. When Tesla started producing the Model Y, look at what happened to Tesla stock. It went way up. Even now, after being down quite a bit, it is still way up. And Gary Black thinks that Cybertruck could do something similar to Tesla's stock. Maybe not make it go up 7 times, but go up substantially. Occasionally I see someone complaining down in the comments that, oh, Tesla stock is down $3 a day. Oh, Tesla stock is down 5% a day. Oh, Tesla stock is down 10%, basically in a few short days after the earnings. While I can understand that frustration, if that frustrates you so much, if that's you probably shouldn't be in Tesla stock. How about this? How about you sell all of your Tesla stock so I can buy cheaper, because I don't want to miss out on the next big run. I'm not saying it will happen this year. Maybe it will take 5 years. Maybe as many as 10 years. Either way, I will be patiently waiting for that to eventually happen again. But just to be clear, when my family asks how much Tesla stock should they own, I tell them no more than what you are willing to lose, because Tesla stock is so volatile. And I know many of them would have a very hard time holding through these huge dips of Tesla stock. And YouTube says you should watch this video next, but if you haven't finished watching this Elon Musk interview, watch this one first. My name is Matt Posius. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.